What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. And break down what's happening with the charts so far, what you should be watching for as we have some big data coming out very, very soon. And all of this information could affect the markets going into the later hours of today. Before I break anything down about what's going on with the charts, before I talk about some very important data and what's going on with the markets, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you are guaranteed up to 12 free stocks. The offer ends in just one day, it ends tomorrow, so check it out before they run out. Anyways, let's break down what's going on with the overall market. So looking at SPYs, things currently down 0.6%. We're looking a little bit more bearish on the 30 minutes time frame as of right now. However, it's not necessarily the end of the world because we're very close to some key supports, which is where some buyers could still step in. When it comes to the market, I just want to remind you all that we just had the house pricing index come out right here. The data came out, and we're actually seeing house prices still once again above what the forecast just so happened to be. And with this still going on, with the house price index still being this hot, once again, this is not the best of news. There's still a chance that a correction is on the table, and this could once again, remain bearish for the markets just a little bit. However, it's not going to be the biggest factor for now. Don't forget that at about 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern time, or 30 minutes after the market opens, we have the consumer confidence report coming out. We have new home sales and some manufacturing data from the Fed, all coming out 30 minutes after the market opens. So at about 10 o'clock a.m. New York time, I'm expecting some more volatility. So this will have a big effect on how the market ends up moving. So make sure you're prepared for this. Bowman from the Fed is also going to be giving a speech, so whatever they say could cause some volatility. The market tends to like it when they speak, so just be ready as well. When it comes to news affecting the markets, there's been some talk about how futures are kind of weak for today, and September is just once again living up to its reputation so far. That is a fact as of right now. The UAW strikes are continuing. There's nothing new going on here. There's been some talk about how Blue Origin is going to have a new CEO soon by the end of the year. That is important for them, so that's worth noting. And besides that, we have some big news that came out for Aapl. One of their most influential executives is heading for the stand. On Tuesday, the Justice Department is trying to nail Alphabet's Google for its licensing deals. And then on top of this, we're going to be seeing another testimony going on for Aapl. And this is going to be very important for them, so be prepared for that. And this could be part of why Apple's slowing down just a little bit. I think there was some news that came up for AMC as well about how particular strikes have ended with Hollywood studios, which is once again bullish news for AMC, but we'll see what happens from there. But anyways, I want to talk about the charts. How are things looking? I'm going to try to be kind of brief as well. SPY is looking kind of weak as of right now, but we're approaching some critical supports. Yes, we're selling off. This is just a gap down, but don't forget that we have this gap above. And when you look at the chart right now, this looks like a possible head and shoulders, so it could drop a little bit more. There's a real possibility of that. But here's the thing about it. If we open, right, and we try to push back above 430, we're going to be watching this gap resistance very close to this like 430.7 to 430.8 zone. If we get above that, we're going to be testing the 50 EMA. If we get above that, we're likely going to fill the gap and start pushing for 432. So I think there's a good chance of us getting a bounce to try to fill that gap if we're bullish. If we're bearish, you want to see it retest this like 428 area if we break below 429 to hold. So watch those levels very carefully. My guts is telling me it's going to drop a little bit when we open and start trying to push back up. Then by the time the data comes out, we might see this SPY try to make a recovery and try to fill this gap. I'm leaning a bit more in that direction, but I'm not really 100% positive because it all depends on this data. But once again, guys, because when you look at the 4-hour time frame, this hasn't really changed that much. This still looks like showing life, and I still think there's potential for us to try to get this bounce and fill this gap. So I think SPY is going to likely attempt to do so soon. And I think that's, we're still near our bottom, at least the temporary bottom for now, before we try to bounce. So I still think there's potential, and I think that we're going to make an attempt to bounce soon. We could drop a little bit more first, but I'm leaning a little bit more in that direction still. As for Tesla, if you look at Tesla, possible head and shoulders, sure. Could it drop a little bit more? We could see it. You're going to be watching 242 as a very, very key level. If we break below 242.5, then we could start sinking towards 240, if not 238. But if you're bullish, you want to see it break and hold above 246.5. If it manages to do so, we're going to be pushing towards, I would say, 248, if not 250. Now, on the 4-hour time frame, it looks more bullish. It looks like Tesla has upside potentially coming still. Tesla does not look dead just yet. It could drop a little bit more before this thing tries to bounce, so it still looks okay on the 4-hour time frame. On the 30-minute time frame, it's still trying to hold up. So you're going to be watching this very carefully to see how it reacts to the data. We haven't really filled this gap, so there's potential for it to bounce. My guts tells me it's going to drop a little bit more before this thing makes an attempt to bounce. So watch that very carefully and watch it during the high volatility phase that's coming very soon. Aapl right now is kind of like getting rejected off this 176 area. We're going to be watching this as it's very stationary, very flat so far. It hasn't really moved that much. For Aapl, we're currently at 175. 174 is a key support. Below that, we have 173.5. Resistance watch 175.54. And then we have 176.6 above that. If we break that, then we could start pushing for 178. If we're bullish, you want to see it break, try to test and break 176. If you're bearish, you want to see it break below 174, and that's potentially going to take it down to 173.5, and that's like another bearish signal. We look kind of stuck right now. I think Apple is just going to remain in this range. I think it's going to make an attempt to bounce and get back to 175 plus, but for now it's looking a little weak, very sideways, so watch that carefully. For the QQQ, now if we're bullish, you want to see this thing start holding above 358, break and hold it, continue to hold it, and we can start pushing for 360 to fill this gap. If we're bearish, you want to see it break below 356. And if that's the case, we're going to be coming all the way down to potentially 355, if not 354. We have two supports there. I'm leaning in the direction of this dropping a little bit more, maybe retesting through the 355 area, possibly maybe a little bit above that, then making an attempt to bounce and come back up, and then retesting gap resistance, which we could break technically and try to come up to fill this gap depending on the data. That's a real possibility. Nvidia is not looking that bad. It is cooling off just a little bit, so we're going to be watching 420 support. If that fails us, then 417.75 is another possibility, not to mention these previous levels such as 415. Below that, I think 410 is a possibility, but I'm not leaning so hard in that direction just yet. Nvidia is looking kind of flat right now, a little weak, but not too bad compared to the market. We're still in a strong uptrend. We have a potential bullish wedge developing on it. So as of right now, technicals do favor the bulls a little bit more. Unless we end up breaking below like 417, then we could start shifting. So if 417 breaks on Nvidia, we could turn a little more bearish and test 415 or lower. If we break above this resistance right here at this 425 area, we can start pushing for 430. Right now, there's a wedge developing, so there's potential for us to still break out as we still look bullish on the 30 minutes time frame, making higher highs and higher lows. So I think it's eventually going to break to 430, but before that happens, we could just trade sideways for the time being. All right. So with that said, I just want to remind you all, we still have a bearish divergence on the VIX. The triple bearish divergence is still valid. So this could still lead to downside on the VIX because of the market pumping. So there's still potential for the markets. The market may start off kind of weak, but watch for a potential bounce soon as we're getting very close to key support. Let's see how 429 holds on SPY. If that breaks, then 428 flat is a possibility before we try to bounce. We could be forming like a double bottom from this low. So I'll just have to wait and see where it tries to bounce, and I am anticipating that to potentially happen, so long as there's no like major bad news. Watch for some high volatility once the data drops, guys. Do what you have to do, and I'll see you guys all in the next video. Thank you so much. Have a good one, and peace out.